Is it bad or is it groovy? Ask the Cinemonkeys.
Hello there, viewers at home. We are the Cinemonkeys, Sprocket and Zoom, and it's summer.
Sprocket! Put your towel back on! We can't let anyone see us!
No way, Zoom. It's June, and I've never been to a beach in my life. I'm gonna soak in some rays, play in the surf.
Review some movies?
Always. Let's start with one of the biggest films of the summer, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom.
2015's Jurassic World is a movie that has very much fallen victim to the "if it's so good, how come everybody liked it" mentality. Starting out as a literal monster hit that breathed life back into the franchise, even if it was heavily based on nostalgia. It received better reviews than either of the previous sequels to Spielberg's classic. But the haters quickly took control of the narrative, and there was a major backlash against director Colin Trevorrow. Jurassic World was unabashedly silly, not the silliest in the series, mind you, but silly, and it had some problematic characters, which can be said of every movie in the series, including the first. But it was also a lot of fun, but sadly, it has become the cinematic Rodney Dangerfield of this decade.
For the sequel, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, which recalls the Lost World Jurassic Park in other ways besides having an awkward and clunky title, producers Trevorrow and Steven Spielberg brought on wildly talented director J.A. Bayona, whose The Impossible and A Monster Called you would really like if you saw them, but you saw some lousy Dwayne Johnson or Kevin Hart movie instead because you didn't feel like thinking, even though the most intellectually challenging part of your job is figuring out how to wipe off the dust from the bag of Cheetos at your desk without getting it on your $14 mail order pants.
The film picks up 3 years after its predecessor ended, and Isla Nublar, the home of both versions of the ill-fated dinosaur theme park, is threatened by the fact that its volcano has become active and is on the verge of eruption. Because apparently, the one thing that John Hammond did spare expense on was a competent geological survey of the island.
So the dinosaurs need to be rescued, which forces a reunion between Chris Pratt's Owen Grady and Bryce Dallas Opie's Claire Dearing, which further complicates their on-again, off-again, will they or won't they, does anybody care get back to the dinosaurs romance.
Claire and Owen return to Isla Nublar as part of a Save the Dinosaurs expedition funded by Benjamin Lockwood, a previously undisclosed former business partner of John Hammond, played by James Cromwell, sporting a British accent that even Kevin Costner is allowed to make fun of. Along with them are two plucky, young, multi-ethnic sidekicks whose names will only matter to their parents.
And a tough-as-nails and twice-as-stupid mercenary played by Ted Levine, desperately trying to make us not picture him in a wig and lipstick.
Yes, I see what you mean. His performance in The Silence of the Lambs was quite iconic.
He was in Silence of the Lambs? Well, unfortunately, not all is as it seems, and Lockwood's aide, played by Rafe Spall, son of actors Rafe Fiennes and Timothy Spall,
he is not,
whatever, has secret plans very different from saving endangered species.
As usual, it is all a setup for thrilling dinosaur action set pieces, and on the whole, those sequences continue to be highly entertaining and thrilling. However, the plot is a bit overly complicated and convoluted, and while the franchise has always teetered a bit between horror and adventure, Gothic horror has no place in the world of Michael Crichton's paleontological wonders. And turning the second half of the film into a Gothic horror melodrama is, to say the least, a baffling choice. One thing no one has ever said was, what if Jurassic Park took place in a creepy old mansion?
Absolutely, Zoom. This franchise is about the folly and arrogance of humans thinking they can control nature, not the dark and perverted secrets of this house and this family.
That's enough! Stop it! Stop it! No!
Got it. Anyway, as with The Lost World Jurassic Park before it, Jurassic World The Lost Park is at its best when we're on the island. In fact, it's hard to escape the constant feeling that this movie is very much Lost World to the last movie's Jurassic Park. And to paraphrase Ian Malcolm, they are making the same mistakes twice, and they are making all new ones. I kept getting distracted by thoughts of the Lost World and questions surrounding it. What's the status of Isla Sorna, aka Site B? Where is Nick Van Owen, environmental activist and dinosaur rights freedom fighter in all of this? Does his absence have anything to do with Vince Vaughn's recent DUI arrest? Is there any right-wing Hollywood celebrity that doesn't have a substance abuse problem? I mean, really, is there...
That is not at all relevant. Look, as fans of this franchise who have every frame of the original film memorized and have found something to love in each one of the highly flawed sequels, we're giving this film a moderate to opposable thumbs up. But it's not a very enthusiastic one. While we've defended Colin Trevorrow in the past, having loved Safety Not Guaranteed, very much enjoyed his Spielberg imitation with Jurassic World, and having felt that the Book of Henry was merely a very intriguing total mess of a film filled with highly questionable messages and a boneheaded sense of smug self-satisfaction at its own perceived cleverness, rather than an actual war crime as others seem to think.
Awesome defense there, Zoom. You should be Michael Cohen's new lawyer.
The point is that to say that this script needs a little work is like saying that Kanye West might do well to consider occasionally letting someone else talk while he listens. The last time we saw a writer with the kind of feelings for their male protagonist that Derek Connolly and Trevorrow seem to have for Owen Grady was Stephanie Meyer with the Twilight series.
In their attempt to add more diversity to this film, they made one character a lesbian. But it's actually a good thing for the LGBTGYN community that they cut the line, as it was more or less a reference to how Owen could almost turn her.
Thankfully, the character of Claire is also more Indiana Jones-esque in this one, and that does offset the overwhelming smell of testosterone a bit, combined with a couple of nice bits about the more tender side of Owen's relationship with the Velociraptor, Blue.
It also helps that Pratt and Cunningham are both good, likable actors and have genuine chemistry.
Sprocket! Enough with the Ron Howard jokes. Nobody even got them in the Solo review.
You wouldn't say that to Augie Hofstadter in his uniform.
One level upon which the original Jurassic Park actually improved on the book was recognizing that the themes actually resonate more when the people attempting to control nature are merely arrogant and naive, not genuinely evil. This franchise works best when there are no full-on villains, and sadly, Fallen Kingdom loses sight of that fact worse than ever before. It's important to remember that Juan Antonio Bayon's directorial debut was the Guillermo del Toro produced The Orphanage, And while Bayona shines brightly when creating suspense sequences, including a dazzling opening sequence, a rather unconventional escape scene, and an even more unconventional bit of paleontological phlebotomy, he still gets lost while trying to make this a horror melodrama a la Crimson Peak.
Still, his visual references to Spielberg and a slight nod to James Cameron at the beginning are awesome-dacious. It's great to have Jeff Goldblum back, even if he's underused, and for all the flaws, it's still fun, and we'll go back to see it again. Just maybe not 5 times like we usually would with a movie in this franchise. The thing is just that, considering that Bayona has traditionally given us strong character-based films, Blue and the Pachycephalosaurus shouldn't have been the only characters that seemed like real people. Like I said, we'll see this again, especially in IMAX, because we love seeing our dinosaurs in IMAX, but we gotta hope that the next one feels less like a genetic hybrid of Jurassic Park and other totally unrelated movies. We're forcing ourselves to act like dignified critics and only give this one 2.5 bananas, but we do reserve the right to go easier on it in the future when the sentimental attachment kicks in. It's rated PG-13 for intense sequences of sci-fi violence and peril, which in this case means dino gore. And speaking of action and peril, I think I see some peril right now in the Monty Python sense of the term, and I'm gonna...
Going to get me some action, yes, yes, yes. I saw that joke coming from so far away, I could have actually done that Tom Hanks thumb thing with it, like he does with the moon in that film directed by the guy who does the voice on Arrested Development. I must echo Sprocket's sentiments, though. It's really quite hard to go easy on this film, but at the same time, there's a strong reluctance to go too hard on it. The fact of the matter is, honestly, none of the Jurassic Park sequels should exist. Not a single one. And yet we can't wait for the next one. So, we'll see what happens. You're going to see Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. We know that, but we strongly suggest that you find time to make it to the excellent documentary Won't You Be My Neighbor about the legendary Fred Rogers. It's the best film of the year, and we shall probably talk about it very soon. Until then, I'm Zoom, and that furry oaf over there about to get arrested is Sprocket, and this is Cinemonkeys.